Welcome to Film Freaks. This is Justin Llewellyn.
That's William.
Ghost in the Shell is the 2017 live-action adaptation of the Japanese manga that began in 1989 and was also adapted as an anime in 1995 under the same name. Now, a good little backstory. I'm not really too familiar with too much of the original anime movie from the 1990s. I watched bits of it growing up, but I never really fully watched the original version.
Before we get started, I like to state that I also never seen the original. I'm not much of an anime fan. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like it, I just don't get into it. So, this will be a review of basically just what we thought of the movie itself.
Right.
With no comparison of the anime, because we both never seen it. So.
Right. Just to kind of get into pretty much the story, both the live action version and the original animated film take place in the far future, where humans are basically augmented with cybernetics, and they have different traits. Like they have basically they're these type of robots that are created by this company called Hanaka Robotics that are able to build these androids that have the traits that are pretty much similar to humans. They have vision, strength, intelligence. And the film, the 2017 live action version, dealt with actually some controversy, and because there was a lot of controversy surrounding Scarlett Johansson's casting as the main character. And
basically, complaints of it feeling like it's whitewashing, but I'd like to state also that the whitewashing thing was really not an issue, and I'll go to that here in a little bit when we talk about our pros and cons. But I will like to state that the people who originally created the anime and plus, the entire Japanese citizens of Japan all stated with visual proof that they said they were actually glad they changed the main character to a white person.
yeah, I mean, I think it was the actual publisher of the original manga who said that, and there were some other ones that also said the same thing.
Everybody there is really cool about it. In fact, people who are complaining about whitewashing are actually white people in America, which, I mean, if everybody else around the world approved it, who really cares?
Well, that's...
Not to mention, they did state a good kind of like an argument for this, that, and we'll tell you in the movie, Scarlett Johansson is actually inside her, he is still Japanese, but they did say that the robotics, the body of her, who made her kind of whitish, and there's another character that's also a robot in this, we won't go into much detail on that, but there's an argument that these robotics, that their body, the shell that they're living in, is actually invented by Western civilization, like, Western nations, like United States, Europe and all them. They own, apparently, the company that built these robotic bodies, and basically shipped it over to Japan, and Japan connected it all together. So that's kind of like a good argument.
Yeah, and
that's what the actual creators of the original even stated that.
Yeah, which
so,
is...
in a sense, if that's true, then it ain't really whitewashing,
That's what I'm saying. It was a similar case that came out earlier this year when we had another film that dealt with the same issue, which was The Great Wall. And
Great Wall, but people went into misjudging that one, but I know is Matt Damon was actually playing a missionary, a guy who was on a journey. He states he's from Europe, and he's meeting the south of the Chinese dynasty.
yeah,
And that actually is true history.
yeah,
that really did happen where we exchanged stuff, but people don't know that Great Wall was not a documentary about Great Wall. It's actually just a fictional story about dragons.
right. And now with this movie coming out, based on just what I saw, based on the previews, it looked like it was going to be kind of like a cross between artificial intelligence from Spielberg and like The Matrix, basically, because
and with the advent of Fifth Element.
Yeah, that too. Well, more or less, basically taking more inspiration from Blade Runner, because a lot of the different designs they use for the city, because this takes place in pretty much I think it's Tokyo, I believe. I'm not really too sure of the location, but it looks kind of like Tokyo. It's in like the very far future.
It's like a more advanced Tokyo, like in Tokyo, and you took it like 200 years into the future.
Yeah, and so the story deals with a woman named Mira Kirlian, who is played by Scarlett Johansson, who wakes up and she's actually in this synthetic body because, well, not really going to detail, but pretty much her previous body was destroyed, and now she's in the form of an android. And so...
Keep in mind, this is a spoiler-free review, and that's why we don't want to go into details, but there is an actual dark story to what happened to her and many others.
Yeah,
and they're in the show.
Absolutely, yes, and basically after she becomes, after about a year or so, being in this body, she becomes pretty much an assassin for this company, which is called it's an anti-terrorist bureau called Section 9, where she's working alongside these operatives named Botu, who is played by a guy named Pitu Asbik, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and the main boss is a guy named the character Chief Dasuk, I believe it's pronounced Dasuk Aramaki. And pretty much what they do is they're having to stop a terrorist attack on this Honka business conference, and basically once they discover that there's pretty much there's someone that's basically hacking inside these people's minds to try to get them into a different network. And so throughout the film, they're looking for clues for a character named Hideo Kuze, and they discover a mystery surrounding him. And not really, kind of leaving it there because I'm not really trying to basically give you the gist of it.
Because basically, if we were to continue, the second half is generally where they actually, it's all spoilers, and you get the reveal on a lot of stuff, and that would be considered spoiling it. So yeah, we gotta leave it at that. But yeah, me going into this film, I remember seeing the trailers and non-stop for every movie I was seeing before this came out. I will say what really was, I mean, I don't know much about it, but I think what got me to want to see this movie is seeing it in 3D in the trailers. I was like, oh man, this is going to be like one of those movies like Doctor Strange where the 3D is just going to be freaking crazy good.
Yeah, and from...
And stuff. That's what really the only thing that grabbed me.
Yeah, well, and I got to tell you, like, I actually enjoyed this film. Now, I'll get to my pros just real quick, so just to kind of give the gist of it. I really enjoyed...
I want to say before he states his pros, I liked it, but I'm going to say it also had a lot of flaws for me.
Yeah. Well, pretty much one of the things I loved the most in this film was Scarlett Johansson as the Major. I thought that the way that she portrayed the android, she gave a lot of more humanity than what the character deserved, really. And I really enjoyed the way that throughout. I think both this one and in the original anime also dealt with the character having to deal with pretty much memories of her previous life as a human, and she later tries to question herself whether she was of more about her past. And I really liked it.
And I will say that I did like her performance too. Her performance was amazing, and a lot of people were giving her crap as the whitewash thing, but she actually pulled this off. I thought she did good. Everybody's performance, in my opinion, was spot on great. Like, there was nothing bad about. No one wasn't really that off. And I was actually really surprised that, I'm not going to tell you who he plays, but that dude that plays in Murder by Numbers is in that. I forgot his name. The actor's name.
Michael Pitt.
And I have not seen him in a movie in forever.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me off because I didn't even notice his name in the credits. He just came out of nowhere, and it's good to see him come back because I really thought the dude was really talented.
Yeah, I actually really like that guy too. I've seen a little bit of him in other films, in other stuff like Boardwalk Empire and all that. But yeah, I think that he's very underused as an actor, and he basically plays the character that they're looking for, who's Kuze. And when you start to learn more about him, you really start to see. You actually get kind of a backstory that's pretty interesting on him that I really liked. And also, one of the things I really loved about this film the most is the world they surround with this neo future. because when you're seeing like all the different buildings and stuff, it reminded me a lot of not only just Fifth Element, but from what I saw of Blade Runner as well, where how the buildings are pretty much having faces on them, like advertisements and stuff.
Like everything's like all hologram, kind of like a more updated version of Back to the Future too.
Yeah.
But what we think that the future is supposed to eventually be like, where everything's like so high tech. And I did love the visuals in this movie. This movie's visuals were out of this world good. I will say that the city looked amazing. And like the one biggest props I gotta say I did like the most is they went with a approach of a robot turning human again. Like you were stating in RoboCop, they did in the RoboCop reboot. One of the good things they did with that, I mean, it was okay. The RoboCop reboot was okay, but yeah, that was one of its props, was that.
Well,
robot turning human.
Well, yeah, that's also how the original RoboCop was as well, because like RoboCop, the original, and AI, you start to see a lot of the human versus machine elements of how far an android can go with trying to basically try to be human, but also questioning themselves as a robot. And
yeah, I love that method. I do love that method. That's what really got me in the original RoboCop. I absolutely loved. I loved that whole franchise.
Yeah, and
yeah, I get that. That was one of the strongest suits with this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I have to give props for is I love the score they use, like by I believe it's Clint Mansell and Lauren Balfe. Clint Mansell is a really talented composer, and his music, his kind of synth pop music here, I think, as far as I know, he conducted it.
It does go because it's more like, like neo-techno look to it, but I will say that it has got a damn good score, and I think so far, it's of 2017, I will say at least the score in Ghost in the Shell is probably the best score so far this year, out of any movie came out this year.
Yeah, it is definitely, it keeps you really pumped with a lot of the action scenes, and it really gets you in the atmosphere with how they build this world. And yeah, and to an extent, I really did enjoy the 3D. I thought that a lot of the parts, at least involving with some of the city scenes, like when they're going through and searching for stuff, you do get some cool pop-out moments and things like that, and it felt like it was more atmospheric than it was, like, pop-out gimmicky. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I like that they at least keep that atmospheric.
3D, I will give you, I like the 3D for what they gave us. I was a little disappointed with the 3D at the same time, because I know, walking out of the theater, I thought this movie, or walking in too, I expected this movie to be out of this world 3D. Like, I thought this was going to be, the 3D was going to be just crazy damn good, because this is the type of film that usually does that. I walked out of the theater, and I was kind of like, for what they did do, this pop-out, they were good in the atmosphere, but I was a little disappointed that there was not, I mean, this movie was like, at least 40% of the time, didn't have 3D. It kind of reminded me of like Rogue One or some movie like that, where you went and bought the 3D ticket, and the movie was really not fully shot in 3D. That's what this experience kind of reminded me of. I mean, I'm not saying that the 3D was horrible. 3D was damn good for what they showed. It's just, there was a lot of parts where it wasn't much of a pop-out. It was just, you'd see it come out of the screen a little bit, and I wish they could have did more with their 3D, because this is the type of film I love going to see in 3D.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Well, now I get to my cons, and I'll be honest, like, I don't have a lot, but I do have some things that did kind of bother me. For one, at least from the story standpoint, it was like I was getting involved with where the movie was going for a while, but then they do something that's pretty much very kind of predictable toward the end that I felt was kind of just, I felt like was already done so many times before. And
yeah, with the there's a twist, and it has something to do with villains, and it is predictable. And believe it or not, this was used many times.
Yeah,
and I agree with you on that. My other con was I was getting into the story, but I gotta say that first half, at least the first hour, I was getting like, it would start out good, but it was slowly going down for me, because I was getting really freaking bored.
Yeah.
The story was getting on, it was getting so padded out. I felt like they were hashing some of the scenes over and over, where she's kind of a cop and she's going one scene to another, and it's kind of like, okay, you go to one scene, you get in a big action fight, cool, then you go find and investigate again, it's another scene, you get an action fight, so I was kind of getting really bored with that.
Yeah, I will say that there was a lot of, that was one of my issues too, where it is very rinse and repeat, where they go to search for one of the villains, and then they get in a fight, she goes back to the place where to get rejacked, or I'm sorry, to talk more with the company about different stuff, and then it cuts again to them searching again, looking for the person. So I did feel like there was a lot of scenes where they kind of rehashed a lot of the same stuff. And one of the things too that also bothered me was, I guess there was, they didn't really focus too much on some of the characters that we do get introduced. Like I even though I do like his backstory involving with Kuze, I did feel like he was very underused, so that we didn't get really much of his character. He kind of felt, in a way, like
actually, yeah, I agree. His performance is good, and you are right. His backstory is like, it's more quickly just told by verbal, and then you get to get into it with him. It's like, I mean, just because you tell his backstory in less than 3 to 5 minutes doesn't mean you gave us a true backstory of the character, which I agree with you on. That kind of was kind of a turn off. And not only that, I thought this movie didn't have much of a payoff.
Yeah, it felt, I mean, there was a climax, but it was kind of it was actually pretty anticlimactic, because it went by so fast that you really couldn't even take time to really get invested with the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It felt...
And then not only that, because it also, when it does end, it just seems like it was your standard action film. It ended a very standard action film, and you see a lot of even straight-to-video movies getting kind of like this, and it's just like, oh, man.
Yeah, but I will say that overall, it was a good. I liked the film, and I can see that a lot. This is not really getting doing too well at the box office. I mean, for I guess because of the controversy and things like that, but also from a lot of critical standpoint. But I will say that I enjoyed it, and based on what I saw, I think that Scarlett Johansson really nailed it, and for that, and for all the other pros I just said, I'm going to give the movie a 7 out of 10.
All right. To me, it's a decent film. It's worth a check out. I mean, I would own it. I liked it, but it's a movie that it was kind of your typical, it's cool, it's a good movie, but with a lot of flaws. It's just average for me. I'm going to give The Ghost in a Shell a 6 out of 10.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much, guys, for listening to our review of Ghost in the Shell. If for those of you who have seen it, what did you guys think of it? Comment below, and if you guys like what you see here, you can check out more of our reviews, and we'll be seeing you in our next one. We'll see you later.
Later.